Welcome and thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's look at all things commercial real estate. In this show, we cover a broad range of topics that cater to CRE newcomers and industry leaders alike. I'm your host, Ashley Kobovitch, Director of Partnerships at Crexi. And today we are thrilled to sit down with Cody Payne, Senior VP at Colliers International. A little bit about our guest. Cody Payne is a Senior Vice President at Colliers International in Dallas-Fort Worth, and his team specializes in selling office and industrial investment properties. Over the past 19 years, Cody's team have closed more than 1,000 commercial real estate transactions. Combined with Colliers' platform and Cody's extensive knowledge and expertise of leasing, management, market conditions, and business, the Payne office and industrial team provides their clients and investors with the opportunity to maximize value while creating a competitive advantage that yields the best results. Prior to joining Colliers International, Cody worked at Marcus & Millichap and Sperry Van Ness / Dunn Commercial. Cody and his team have a new book out called Flex Space Domination. It's the ultimate way to help you invest and learn more about how to build the world of small bay flex industrial. Cody, welcome to the podcast.
Man, did you just think of all that, or were you reading it?
It all came from the top of my head.
I appreciate it. That's right. I just things that I know about you. No, I appreciate that.
Of course, our listeners are really, really excited to have you sit down with us today. I know we just extensively covered your background and we'll touch on a lot of things, but just in your own words, give us a 30,000-foot overview of your career path, and we'll dive into some lessons along the way. How'd you get your start in commercial real estate?
So I started in the early 2000s. I was actually a car salesman, and I wasn't big on going to college. I would say that I'm not a good test taker, but basically I'm just not the smartest guy on the block. But met a guy who was looking for agents. He was willing to hire me when a lot of other guys weren't, and I was basically a leasing agent for a long period of time. Always wanted to get into the investment sales side, but took a little bit of track record to get there, and but over time I did, and then built a phenomenal team that we've been together for a long time, and just having a blast doing it, and just working on the small bay flex all across the U.S. And our quest and our game plan is never ending, and so every day is a new day here, and we have a lot of fun doing it.
Absolutely. I love that. First from a car salesman, right? Always in sales. Then how did you find your niche? So tell us a little bit about how you went from, leasing, investment sales, now specializing in the realm of industrial, specifically small bay assets.
Yeah. So, it was essentially, I went to go work for this guy, and he was doing big box industrial, like larger industrial leasing. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he wanted me doing any of that. He kind of wanted to be the man doing that. So he said, hey, go do this other stuff and maybe you'll find success. I think you'll do fine at it. And, I just was working on it. And back then, the small bay flex was really not a desirable asset class. But over time, it really started to kind of come into its own and started to do better and just started to become more popular. And, as the small business, entrepreneurs continued to, increase across the U.S., it just really became something that became a more profitable investment and a lot more sought after. And so, it's kind of a natural swing to go from leasing to sales, if anything. And so just did that and added on several guys along the way that have good leasing backgrounds as well. And, we just kind of go around trying to conquer the small bay flex side.
I love that. Well, that was a really good pivot, right? Worked out in your favor. Tell us a little bit about the early days or even later in your career. Who were some mentors of yours? Any big things that helped shape your career path that you can kind of impart on our listeners here?
As far as mentors go, there were obviously a few along the way. David Dunn, who I initially worked for, he hired me when a lot of other people wouldn't. I was hit with him for probably almost 10 years. And then there was another guy that I met that hired me at Marcus & Millichap, Hernando Perez. What's funny is around that time period, I was you're kind of like, you're doing fine in your job, and then you meet somebody that just kind of helps reignite that spark that you had, when you were younger, that really just kind of gave you that extra jump of motivation. And instead of just kind of getting in it's easy to kind of get in the mundane of things and just kind of, oh, yeah, this is how it is, and I do this and that. Well, I met him, and he just was a really good personality and a good friend, and he kind of helped reignite a little bit of spark into me that made me, I've always been a competitive individual, and just kind of brought that back out of me, and just kind of built on from there. But obviously the two biggest figures are going to be my father and my grandfather. But yeah, they all taught me a little bit of something good along the way.
I love that. I love that. Definitely bringing back that spark, right? The day to day can be very monotonous, especially when we're in sales and we're doing the same thing and we're calling and we're doing all of the things that we need to in order to see success. Bringing that spark back is so important, right? Going back to maybe a why, or what do you do? Future thinking and kind of getting that, I love that. And then obviously just where you come from, parents, grandparents, things like that. Dive a little bit deeper into maybe some of the, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and as I mean, when you're in sales and you are selling a product, or you're selling an investment or anything like that, you can get into that kind of, funky state to where you're only as good as your last deal. And it's like, okay, I sold that. Now I got to do another one, because, that means nothing now at this point. And it's all about, what can you do for me now? What can you do in the past? And so, when you get into that rut, I think that's where a lot of brokers kind of get into, and it gets hard to get out of. And I mean, you can still do well in your career and still make very good money. But as far as having the excitement and the enjoyment, that's why you do sales, because you don't want to be, sometimes maybe a typical, 8 to 5 kind of employee. And so just kind of always recognizing that and understanding, where to get motivation from is, I think, key to success in any field.
Yes, absolutely. In any field, you're absolutely right, but especially in success, when it is that emotional roller coaster of ups and downs. And, in your business, based on the times, you can go a really long time without having a deal. So making sure that that motivation is there. I love it. What were some of the lessons, and that is definitely one of them, but maybe that you learned early on that became invaluable moving forward?
So, I went through the market crash of, 2008, 9, and 10. And, when those years were pretty rough, I saw a lot of agents leave the industry. And, I kind of learned, really then how, real estate can really get impacted by the economy, and how, it can kind of flush the system out of a lot of agents. And if you're not careful and you don't set yourself up properly, luckily at that time I was, still very, very young, and was able to actually go back and live with my parents. But it taught me a lot of, hey, you need to really protect yourself and become an agent that is valued not just through good economies but also through bad economies. And so even though there were some slight hiccups over the last couple of years, I mean, we still have done relatively pretty well, especially compared to a lot of the competitors. And I haven't really lost any guys here either. And so just kind of helping them, understand, hey, there could be hard times ahead. This is how you kind of insulate yourself from that, to be able to, whenever you come out, as when you come out of a bad market, you're usually able to collect a lot more market share than what you had. And so really setting yourself up for the future is something that I learned to do, and take advantage of the times in the economy. Whenever it kind of puts things your way, you got to learn, okay, how do we take advantage of this moving forward?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love to hear that, because people can definitely get down in those times. So, good reminder for all of us. Do you have any favorite mistakes or moments that course corrected you on your current path that maybe at the time you didn't recognize was a big opportunity?
I don't know if it's a mistake, but I mean, I guess it was just called a learning point. It's really dealing with certain individuals, as and especially in sales. You can sometimes see the dollar more than the stress level that comes with that dollar. And what I mean by that is kind of understanding, what you're taking on from what clients and certain individuals, and learning to say no instead of, maybe doing a deal with somebody that is maybe more difficult. And kind of managing your stress and anxiety levels a little bit better on that. And, and also just kind of really believing in yourself on, where you think your value is and what you bring to the table, and not letting emotions from maybe the other side. And I think this happens a lot more in residential, to where if, say, you're evaluating a property at $1 million, but that person thinks it's $2 million, and, you're sitting there trying to, come up with the value in between, and you're no longer the specialist you're trying to more appease them and their number that may not be achievable. And so really just kind of understanding those things. Like I said, it happens in every job, just like even selling cars, back then, somebody wanted to buy a F-150 for, and this will tell you how long ago it was, for like 20 grand. And, but it was really actually for sale for 25. And, and so they're like, that's not worth it. But I think just kind of, understanding clients and being a little more pickier and choosy of who to work with. And I think that's your value as well, is, and I used to always say that too, is what's funny. And I'm not going to ramble on here, but I used to always say, cause we'd work with anybody, everybody, it didn't matter, come one, come all. And, I think that when you start dealing with people that are more like-minded, as you are, and you kind of have the same goal and are, have the same objective, it becomes a lot more fun of a career.
Yeah, couldn't agree. I mean, you said a lot of things there, learning to say no, and then learning to deal with certain people. Maybe, is it worth it? Being a little bit more choosy. What are some additional fundamental tenets of your work ethic that you maintain today?
I'm a very regimented individual, and so I pretty much get up. I eat the same things. I cold plunge. I do a sauna. I mean, I'm very regimented, and so like I'm even like going on vacations. Like it's very rare that I go on vacation. I was actually talking to the young girl that is with you earlier before you got on. And we were just kind of talking about that, about, because it's December now, if we're going on vacations. I was like, man, I just don't like going anywhere. I love being home. I love being around here. I love being around the guys at the office. And so I don't really stray too far. I've battled, anxiety and panic attacks for 20 years. And so I've always learned the more regimented I stay, the better I am.
I like that a lot. I mean, good for sales too. You have to be regimented. It's all a numbers game, right? And I love that you know that about yourself, right? So what other daily habits, in addition to being regimented or cold plunge every day or eating the same thing in the morning, anything else that's been essential to your career, whether it be in the CRE space or, like you're saying, cold plunging?
One thing that we do here is every day we like to at least have a goal set of reaching out to a certain amount of new people every day, minimum. And so, some guys got to reach out to more than others, but keeping that going to where you're connecting with somebody, multiple people new every day, I think is very key to continue to expand your network, because I know everybody says your net worth is your network.
Yep.
And so those are things that we do. And then, we also we do these roundtables here all the time. This is kind of like really one of the funner things that we started doing a while back ago, just kind of coming up with new creative things to do, things that we could advance the team, how to get more exposure, and with the technology in today's world, I mean, there's just so many things that you can do. So that's why we ended up doing that book. We've got a lot of cool events that we put on now that we used to not put on, that bring a lot of flex guys together. And so our mindset roundtable that we do is really good here as well.
Oh, okay. Next time I'm in town, I'll definitely hit that up.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it. Really, really, really creative, but also just getting back down to the basics, right? Setting those micro goals and hitting the numbers and reaching out to people. Obviously, CRE really, really big on connection. So going more into that and getting more into the flex industrial world, obviously an asset class that you're very well versed in, growing rapidly. Your team's been leading the charge to increase visibility on this asset class. So for maybe some of our listeners that don't know what it is, give us a little insight. What is the asset class? And then can you tell us why you're so focused on it and what potential you do see in small bay flex?
Yeah, absolutely. So small bay flex is, kind of what you see out there. That's, smaller spaces. A lot of times they're around 1 to 5,000 square feet. They're buildings that have, garage doors and a walk-in door. I mean, they can be as basic as, your metal building that just have, a row of multi-tenant, or they can be a little bit more higher end with a lot of showroom glass, have a little bit more of a retail look to them. But a lot of times, and what they used to really cater to was the subcontractor base mostly, right? The landscapers, plumbers, electricians, things of that nature. And now it's not uncommon to see, showroom guys in there, retail guys, office people, and so the asset class has really expanded quite a bit. And when I started my career, I was actually leasing it. And so, and then we would start to sell a little bit of it here and there. And then, we just really wanted to get into the full sales side of it, and hired a couple other leasing guys that came from the same background on the flex side. And now our main forte is just the investment sales of it. But it's a fantastic asset class. I think it's one of the better cross asset investments that you've seen from people coming from multifamily, office, retail, self storage. A lot of people are coming into this asset class because it is a very good inflation fighter whenever you have tenant rollover. Mm-hmm. So if a tenant leaves, the cost to re-tenant the space isn't as much as you'll find in a lot of times office or retail. And then also, these have really been on the rise with triple net leases. They used to be gross leases for a long time, and now it's not uncommon to see a lot more triple net. And so you're able to recapture those taxes, insurance, common area maintenance, all those items, which is something that has been kind of on the run for a lot of commercial real estate across the country, is the operating expenses. And so when you have the ability to recapture it like you do in a lot of retail, all that does is help your bottom line. And so, I think that it's a asset class that's going to continue to expand and evolve. And you can't name one asset class that can pull from retail and office and light industrial. This is the only one that does. That's all there is to it. This is the only one that does.
Yeah, I mean, amazing crossover, and thanks for that explanation. And it's easy to see based on that why the asset class has become so popular over the past couple of years. From your 30,000-foot overview, what does the current state of small bay flex industrial look like based on maybe some of the deals that you're working on?
I think it's in a very good position. There's a lot of new developers building it all across the country. There's a lot of new funds being created for it, to buy it, portfolio it, look at selling it off to larger people. And with all the cross asset people that are coming into it, I mean, it's such an active asset class. I feel like it's similar to self-storage in the late 90s and early 2000s. Because self-storage is, the story on self-storage is it was a lot of small kind of mom and pop owners, is what people called it back then. And now it's a very heavily institutionalized asset class. Mm-hmm. Flex is not as heavily institutionalized, but I think it's on its way. And so I think there's a lot of advantages in that, because, as you know, anytime an institutional money is investing in something, the values tend to rise. And so I think that's one of the reasons why you see it on the rise across the U.S. and across the globe.
I appreciate that. How are some macroeconomic factors influencing your particular sector? So any shifting considerations as, we're turning a corner against or in the battle against inflation or post-election, how's that playing in?
So, I mean, obviously inflation affects anything, especially when you're building. That's probably been the biggest hurdle for any new construction. Where these things are getting their most benefit from is a lot of the new home construction and growth in several markets across the U.S. So, take DFW, for example. The continued, influx of people coming and moving to the Dallas-Fort Worth area has just continued the outward expansion of DFW to just continue to grow. And so anytime you have markets where they are seeing a lot of new home growth, population growth, business growth, things of that nature, you're going to see flex popping up. And that's a, huge driver for this kind of stuff. And so, but it tailors well in all markets. I mean, there's markets like East Texas and even markets in, Arizona, Oklahoma that, maybe don't have as much growth as other markets, but because of the rise of, small businesses and, the rise of entrepreneur and the, whenever you take like retail, for example, we were selling a park actually not too far from here, and it had 2 retail tenants in it that came from retail centers. And I was actually talking to one of them, and they said they just, because of how business is done online and a lot of their business comes in from online, they don't need the visibility anymore. And so they were able to come into a space that was half the price of their retail center. And so you've got a lot of factors like that are benefiting the small bay flex side.
Okay, appreciate that explanation. What are some primary considerations when you're advising your clients through the current economic times?
It really depends on where if you're an owner of real estate, if that's what you're asking, and it really depends on where their position is, right? If they're in a position to sell and it makes sense, obviously you can do that. If not, we always try to help out to figure out, okay, how do we help you optimize the property to, run at its, maximum potential, right? Do we need to add on certain amenities? Do we need to add on maybe storage side yards, or what do we need to do? Do we need some leasing help? Do we need to help change a leasing company? Do we need to get one of our leasing guys on there? It really depends on where the property is. The good thing I will say about small bay flex is it's very rare to find one that's in trouble right now. And so unlike office or retail, you can find those in trouble all day long, but the small bay flex side, these things are built like Hondas. They're made to run right now. And so we haven't run across very many that are having issues.
Good. Okay. So if you had a crystal ball and kind of looking ahead, where do you see the small bay flex sector heading in Dallas-Fort Worth as well as nationally over the next, let's say, 5 or 10 years?
So I think over the next 5 and 10 years, you're going to see a big influx of institutional money purchasing it. I think they're going to continue to grab up as much of the infill as they can, and then they'll start to expand outward, which is they do in most asset classes. And so I think you're going to see a big rise in it. I think you're going to continue to see people come from the office sector, come from the multifamily sector, and invest in this asset class. And I think it's going to continue to get very, very competitive. I think it's going to be as competitive as self-storage is in several years. And it's going to be one of those things where it's, hey, easy to find buyers, hard to find sellers.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you heard it here first, guys and gals that are listening. Maybe make that investment today. We'll give you a call. So shifting into a third topic here, I'd love to dive into something that doesn't get discussed much in the CRE space, the value of ownership with brokers as investors in property. So at Colliers, you've built a robust team that's been through a lot together. So talk to us a little bit about how the team has grown alongside your focus on small bay flex. And do you encourage your team to get into investing as well?
I encourage anybody to get involved in investing. And I think that's when people get into brokerage, especially on investment sales side, I think that's really a lot of their end goal anyways, is to get in on the ownership side some way or another. And I always encourage it as well. Obviously you always got to walk a fine line, especially if you're representing the seller side or whatever you're doing. But sure. As far as, how we, help the guys here, train Austin and Nick and Zoe and all them. We continuously, update our, mental acuity, and we do a lot of meetings together to just kind of make sure we're all mentally sharp on our asset class, on our talking points, so that because we all deal with a lot of the same guys here. And so we want to make sure that whenever we are talking to a lot of the same guys, that all of us are on the same page with, where our thought processes are, and, continuously training, continuously, updating ourselves on the market, on, new ways of marketing, how to, capture certain buyers. And obviously we've got a great team chat that we send links to each other all the time about, new events and news and stuff that's going on. So we're very well connected in that aspect, and, just really doing, quarterly meetings with all the guys too, to make sure, hey, where are you at with your goals that we set? Where are you at with them? How do we need to get there? And they do the same with me. I make sure that they're harder on me than I am on them. I'll tell you that. And to make sure that, I'm doing what I need to be doing as well to progress us in our stages, because a lot of tasks we do split up, right? Like, hey, you're going to go, you'll not just call these guys, but you're going to take care of this sector of our team. for the remainder of the year, for the half of the year. And so we all got to make sure that we're doing our part. And as long as we're excited and feel positive and enthusiastic about it, it always gets done. I never really have to worry about these guys too much.
Good. I love that. A lot of different goal settings, back to goal settings, checking in, a lot of accountability, and then sharing within the team. I think that's so important.
And we love. I was going to add also, Ashley. We love embracing fears here. It's kind of like our thing. And so, like one guy's kind of scared to talk in front of quite a few people. So I made sure and sign him up for several speaking events. And
yes,
I went with him, so it's like, hey, if you mess up, I'll be there to look just as bad, so there ain't no problem. And so we do things like that as well to kind of help out on that. And so if someone's got certain fears that they're trying to overcome, whether it's, some people are very intimidated when they deal with, maybe extremely wealthy individuals or institutions or something of that nature. And, you just got to put people in a position to kind of face those.
Yes, I think that's so important. That's hitting, obviously about why your team is so successful. You guys are pushing each other to grow, right? A lot of people are afraid of public speaking, but I had a mentor who helped one of his mentees sign him up for Toastmasters and, had to do at the end public speaking, and kind of make that. So I love that you guys do that. That's really, really important. Good on you.
Yeah. It's fun though. It's fun doing things like that.
Yeah, and it's appreciated so much more than you know. So with that said, we teased this a little in your bio. Can you share a little bit more about your book, Space Domination? So give us a little insight into what inspired you to write it, why now, and maybe some of the responses that you've seen so far.
Absolutely. So me and Austin and Tran, we got together last year and we said, we're dealing with so many people that are trying to get into this flex space right across the U.S. They're calling, they want to know about it. We don't teach courses, we don't do any of that. And so we said, we're going to write a book that's got all of our knowledge in there. My 20 years of being in the business, Austin's 10 year of being in the business, Trans. We're going to sit down, we're going to write a book. None of us really know how to read a book, to be honest with you. But we sat down and we just wrote down all the topics we wanted to go over. And then we all wrote a bunch of topics. We mashed them all together. We met with an editor. We realized that it was all one long sentence. And so, they said, hey, we got to teach y'all to put some periods and commas in here. I know, right? And so, but we spent a lot of time writing it. We're very proud of it. It's been received exceptionally well. And we put it on Amazon. And I'm surprised that thing sells like 3 to 4 a day. And,
wow.
Oh, yeah. And anybody that we know that's read it has liked it. I mean, obviously, if they didn't like it, they're not going to call us and tell us that. But it's a good book for people who are like, hey, I want to get into the space. What's the kind of a starter to go to? And it's the only book in this space right now, as it is. That's probably why it's so popular. Because as if you search like residential investing or something like that, there's going to be a mile long of books on Amazon and wherever else books are sold. And so, but it's been good. It's been very good for our business, and it's been a good tool for a lot of people that have interest in the airspace.
Great. Well, thank you for writing that. So maybe for
I'll send you a copy.
Amazing. Okay, great. For those new to this asset class, how does the book break down the opportunities and strategies in small bay flex? Obviously, we want people to go out and buy the book, so don't give us everything, but give us a little snippet.
No, I'll spill it all. Basically, it just kind of tells you about all the different types of flex you can do, right? The efficient builds, the showrooms, the condos, and it just helps you understand, hey, if you're going to build it, these are some of the demographics and these are some of the things that we look at when we go to look at land. Kind of gives you some land evaluation tips and tricks, a lot of marketing tips and tricks to get it leased, operating it, if you're going to pull investor money together to do it, a few things within that. A lot of things in there also are mistakes that we've seen made, because that's the way I learn is I got to make a mistake, right? I got to burn my hand on the oven a few times And then I realized, you don't want to touch that too much. And so it's got a lot of mistakes that not only we've made, but we've also seen made. So hopefully it can help people kind of, overcome those things. And, maybe some shortcuts that you can take, maybe some corners that you can cut, the ones you don't want to cut. Because, as you know, anytime you're developing something or building something, you always want to look for the most efficient way to build it right. And there are some corners you want to cut. There's some corners you don't want to cut that look like you can. And so, we've helped build enough of these to be able to write a book on. So we're very proud of it. But it's a very basic, very easy to read book too. I mean, if it came from us,
easily written, all one sentence, easy to read, all one
font.
Paragraph.
And it sounds like I talk, so you'll understand that it was written by us.
Oh, that's good. But I'm sure it has really, really great insights into it. So excited to get my hands on that. Cody, from a financial perspective, there's a big difference between waiting on commissions and having consistent revenue from an investment portfolio, right? So how do you balance your time and energy between these two paths in commercial real estate?
Well, our main job here, obviously, is the investment sale, and so that's 100%. We're 100% commissioned, so it's a eat what you kill career. But whenever you are an active investor, getting that kind of stuff, that's why so many people want to get in on the ownership side to kind of create some residual income, which is very key. But which I think a lot of people's goals is, and even mine is too, is to have enough consistent money coming in to where your brokerage becomes secondary. And so, depending on, where you're at in your career, that's one thing that I always advise anybody is, look, selling buildings is great, but keep in mind, you're only as good as your last paycheck. And once that's done, you got to go find the next. And so that's why it can be a mentally draining career if not prepared for it. Or it could be a career like, I love it. I love coming in. I love the fact that you get out what you put in. And I mean, it is true. I truly believe that, like with anything in life, but this one actually does repay it and can do very, very well for you and your family. And it can, also you can create a great team. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with it, but yeah, I think the goal for a lot of folks is to, get on the ownership side to where you're actually making consistent monthly money, and then your brokerage career becomes secondary.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that old broker at 90 years old faxing people. I don't want to do that.
I'm bringing those people kicking and screaming to the internet slowly but surely.
Oh, I know. Trust me. So I don't want to be that guy. But to each his own too. I mean, it's a career that I thoroughly enjoy, and so I do like waking up in the morning and coming in, and so I haven't lost that fire.
Yeah. You can definitely tell just based on the passion that you have for obviously this topic and for your team. So I want to hone in a little bit on that. What advice do you have for brokers or investors getting into small bay flex, or maybe some brokers looking to invest in their first property?
I mean, if you're looking to invest in your first property, I mean, obviously it's got to make sense. You don't want to overexert yourself, financially on something. You got to go with kind of what you're taught and not do something just to do it. It's very easy to do that. But as far as getting into the flex side, I mean, you got to do what you do in any asset class. You need to get as much knowledge as you can. Obviously, Space Domination book's going to help you get there, but looking up other stuff, podcasts, research, finding a market specialist, right? Not a generalist. That's one thing I always tell new brokers when they come into the market. I had a call from a gentleman actually a couple of days ago who said, "Hey, I want to do commercial real estate." And I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" He goes, "I want to do everything." And I said, "Well, the people that make the most money that I know of, they're not generalists, right? They're not selling a piece of land over here, leasing a retail center over here, selling an office building back here. They are specialists. And specialists I've seen, in my opinion, I think do the best. And, those guys usually go on and start owning their own product and things of that nature. And so it's just research, specialization. That's all there is to it. It's very easy. You break it down. All you got to do is make it easy. And
Make
you
it
find a good
basic.
guy you find a guy that knows what he's doing. Because, I just sold my house. I didn't sell my house. I have a license, but I didn't sell it. I'm not the
Mhm.
specialist for it. And
Right.
so, I don't go to my dentist when my arm's hurting. And so, you want to find a specialist.
Really, really good advice. Thanks so much. Appreciate that. Now, given your background and expertise, I'm sure our listeners are curious about your answers to a few rapid fire questions / words of advice. You game?
Let's do it.
All right, cool. So, first one, if you were to be given $50 million today and you had to invest it immediately, what would your go-to asset type and location be, and why?
Oh, what would be my asset class? I mean, I'd put it in flex. I'd put it in. I'd put it in flex and high household demographic income markets,
Mhm.
and be a controller of those said markets. So you're controlling the rate. But if I didn't have to invest it, I would just put $50 million in a CD, and y'all just never see me again. To be honest with you.
You'd be on a beach sipping Mai Tai somewhere. I'm with you.
I mean, yeah. No, I'd still be here because I don't like vacationing. But
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
right.
yeah, I'd be around. But yeah, no, I wouldn't be here. But no, I would put it in nice high end flex and good solid high end markets.
Good deal. Second question, what's the craziest way you found a new client, whether that's on social media or otherwise?
Craziest way I found a new client, probably at a car show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm a big car guy, and so I've got several classic cars, and so I go to car shows all the time. And I've met several people there actually.
Okay. I love that. I mean, the like-mindedness, car salesman. I mean, kind of cars go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, do what you love. You never know when you're going to pick up a new client. So that's a really cool story.
Yeah.
Third rapid fire question, and I promise this is not a trick question. What is your
Okay.
favorite tool or software you use on the job?
Favorite tool or software? I mean, probably our CRM. To be honest with you,
Mhm.
our database is probably our most utilized one that we have. Yeah.
Yep. I'll let you off the hook that it wasn't Crexi and our leads. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, look, that's a really close second. We do we do. I mean, we've been with Crexi since day one.
Mhm.
And so yeah, we've gotten a lot of benefit from it for sure. Because I was around, I was around back when Excelligent had just first came around, and all those other guys, and you had so many of them that came about that aren't even in existence anymore. But Crexi's very good. Been one of the better ones for sure, and it's very consistent, I would say.
Thank you.
If I
Appreciate
can plug
that.
it for you.
Definitely. Mic drop. Appreciate that. Definitely stood the test of time, and appreciate, obviously, of course, all of your support throughout the years. Last rapid fire question. What is the most common misconception about your job or industry?
That everybody's rich.
Fair.
A lot of people think that people in commercial real estate all do very, very well. And I mean, there's some that do and some that don't. But I think also that it's easy too. I think a lot of people think that it's easier than it is. And that's why it's probably one of the higher turnover industries you could be in.
Yep.
That's why when times get tough, you really see a very large exodus. And I've seen people leave the business over the past few years that had been in the business for 15, 20 years. And so that it tells you it can be a lot harder than people think. And but it can also be a lot more rewarding than a lot of people believe. And not just financially, but what it does for your mindset and things of that nature. Because I remember when I first came into it from car sales, it's a lot different kind of tactic. Car sales is just you get them in the car. You gotta get in the car, like just get in and drive it. You'll be fine. And it's not the same. You can't just shove them in a building and they'll buy it. And so
Yep.
it's really understanding the people aspect and being yourself, and how that actually is probably your biggest moneymaker.
Yeah. I mean, great tips of advice. It's definitely not easy, and not everyone is definitely rich, but a lot of things that you've already shared with us about your daily practices and the way that you run your team and mini goals, macro goals, right? All of those things are, ingrained and in you and what make you successful. So thank you so much for sharing that. What other parting words do you have as we wrap up for any of our listeners? Anything that you'd like to share with our audience?
No, I just really appreciate y'all having me on. We love talking flex. So if anybody ever wants to talk small bay flex industrial, me and the guys were always around. Luckily, our wives are all good friends, because when we hang out together, that's all we do is talk flex space. And so, if anybody's ever down to talking, man, give us a shout. We got nothing better to do with our lives.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us, sitting down, sharing your insights. We know you're very, very busy, so we really appreciate the time. So where can people find you online if they want to get in touch? Email, social media, let us know.
Yeah, I mean, we're all over the place. Cody Payne on LinkedIn. I think on Instagram is Cody Payne or TX Office Industrial. Our Instagram's a lot of fun. Me and all the guys, we use it. We have a lot of fun with it. Maybe a little childish at some point, but sometimes. But it's I like having fun with social media more than using it to pick up business. And so, but we're very easy to find.
I love that. I mean, being yourself is the best way to find business, right? So, I mean,
think so. I think people, I used to think being a kind of a corporate style person, kind of robot-esque was kind of the way to be, and it just never suited me very well. And so, I'm a big believer of using your personality to get business.
For sure. Stay true. Oh, I love that. Okay, great. And then an email, just in case someone wants to email you, or phone number to call.
Yeah, Cody.Payne@Colliers.com. Bring it on.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it once again, Cody. And thanks to everyone who tuned in today.
Ashley.
Of course. Everyone, all of our listeners, thanks so much. If you enjoyed this episode, do not miss the next one. Visit Crexi.com/podcast and sign up to get the next episode delivered straight to your inbox. Of course, you can also subscribe to the Crexi Podcast channel on your favorite podcast app, and check out YouTube videos for all recordings after each episode. Take care and be sure to tune in next time.